So here's what I want to talk about this morning. I want to talk about the power of words. And I guess, these vlogs are the power of words. But here's what I was thinking about that I'm going to invite all of you to think about. And of course, like my promise for every one of these vlogs is I'm going to ask you a question for you to consider. So here's what I want to talk, the power of words. So, sometimes I get inspired watching TV, watching events, watching world leaders. Sometimes I get inspired listening to Kimmy. Sometimes I get inspired or uninspired listening to myself. But here's what I wanted all of us to consider is the power of words. Consider, for example, the cultural creative power of Martin Luther King's speech, I Have a Dream. I'll bet just by me mentioning that speech that for those of you at least that were raised in America, that just the idea of that speech changes your body chemistry. Like, can you feel how you feel when you hear that speech? I have a dream. Like the poetry of it. Notice how it changes us. If you're old enough to remember John F. Kennedy in his speech, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. You remember that speech where he pointed to the moon and he said, we're going to go to the moon, and 8 years later we were there. Maybe for most of us, Marianne Williamson's phrase, who are you to play small? These are all really powerful words that create culture. And of course, the more powerful we are in our culture, as a nation, as a world, the more weight our words hold. So what I've been paying attention to lately is people that have influence, people that are in a position to shape our culture and shape our world. What are their words? What do they say? And do we believe them? Are they authentic? And so when I think about the United States of America and I think about other countries around the world, I think about the history of those world leaders and the words that they used to shape those nations. And then I also think about the words that we use to shape relationships. So these may not be, world-renowned poems or speeches. This could be something as simple as, I love you. I notice when I tell Kimmy that I love her, like when I initiate it, and it's believable because I do love her. It's different from she says I love you and I say I love you too, kind of the obligatory. I'm not sure how believable that is, but when I initiate, Kimmy, I love you, I notice how powerful that is for her body chemistry. I notice how it changes her. I notice how it changes her when I tell her how much I appreciate her and how much I love being with her. Those words are powerful. Speaking of her, say hi, Annie. She's looking for seashells. So think about words in terms of creating relationships. And, if we don't have relationships, if we don't create powerful relationships in our lives, what are we creating? What's the value of our life if not for relationships? So think about those words. I appreciate you. I love you. You inspire me. I love spending time with you. Those meaningful, believable words shape relationships. And when I think about life and I think about like when my life's over and what I'm reflecting on in life, I think like the fountain of youth is not how many years you live, but how many extraordinary relationships you have and memories you have of those relationships. So I think I'm 62 right now. I think just in the last 40 or 50 years, I've crammed more extraordinary relationships with extraordinary people into those 62 years than most people might in 100 or 200 years. Why? Because I'm in the people business. I'm in the relationship business, and it's global. and it's intense. And so when I lay my head to rest, whether I'm 100 or 120 or 82, that's what I'm going to reflect on. I'm going to reflect on those relationships and the experiences that we had and the richness of that. And that's worth far more than 80 chronological years. And how do we create that fountain of youth in life? We create it through words. We create it through believable words that we share with other people. And then the third part that I think about is the words that we share with ourselves. Like, how do we become all we want to be? That's the words we share with ourselves. And, you know, some of us may think that we are shaped by the words of others, but I hold that as not true at all. So I may say something to Kimmy, and that may change her body chemistry and may change her emotions and may make her feel good in the moment. But Kimmy talks to Kimmy far more than I talk to Kimmy, and I talk to me far more than anybody talks to me, and you talk to you far more than anybody talks to you. And so the question is, what do you say to you? What do you say to you that's believable, that shapes your power? You know, when we say to ourselves, I love, I am, I can, and we believe those words, that creates power. It creates positive power. It creates strength. It creates courage. It creates ambition. It creates a world view. It creates an I can view. And when we say I can't, I won't, I'm afraid, when we say those words, that creates power too, but it's also a negative power. It's a power that makes us weak. It's a power that has us avoid what we want in life. So a question that you might ask yourself is, if the people around you, your loved ones, your friends, your family, spoke to you the way you speak to you, would you hang around them? Would they empower you? Would they be your friends? Would you even consider them family if they spoke to you the way you spoke to you? So yes, our words shape relationships, and our words, if we have enough influence, shape culture and shape nations, but it all starts with us. It's the words that we say to us. It's the words that we believe about us. And so my question to you today is, what do you say to you? And do you do that consciously? Like, do you create that as an art? You know, part of my life's work has been thinking consciously about the process of how words create thoughts and stories in our mind, and then those influence our emotions. You know, you've probably heard the saying that we're not human beings having a spiritual experience, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And by spiritual beings, everything that we do is based on our feelings. So when we feel good, we're powerful. When we feel bad, we're weak. And that matrix is pretty simple. It starts with words, and words for us as humans create pictures in our minds. And those pictures create emotions, and it's the emotions that give us power, that give us the green lights or red lights. If we want to do something or be something and we feel good about it, we're in action doing it, and we're immensely powerful in action doing it. If we feel bad about doing it, if the feeling we have is we're going to fail, or we're going to look bad, or we can't, then we're weak and we're paralyzed and we don't move and we're not powerful, and we end up living small, insignificant lives as compared to what we could. So the question I have for you today is, who are you creating by the words that you craft? And do you think about those words? And if your friends and family spoke to you the way you spoke to you, would you hang around them? And I challenge you to change that. Challenge you to be conscious and be creative and think about how you want yourself to feel and craft that story with the words that have the power to change you. And that's what I have to tell you.